Da 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 da. Let's see. 210 delay. Why is there so much delay? Wait, is it working? This should be working. Try it. Let's see, guys. Hello, everybody. Michael Mechanical here, and finally set up the stream. So, I've been trying to use my phone again to do streaming, but YouTube recently stopped me from being able to do live streams on my mobile device, this thing. And so when I hit this little button, go live, I get this little message on my screen about eligibility. Your channel does not meet updated eligibility requirements for mobile live streaming. You can still stream with your webcam or broadcasting software. So essentially, I've only come up with one workaround for the way I've been doing things. It might work better, it might not. Essentially, to use webcams and the laptop to live stream. The only problem is the internet connection, depending on where I'd be, would be quite unreliable. That it might have issues, but I think it will be okay. It's just one idea I've got. Other than that, the timing on my dad's V6 Pajero, the 6G72, has a bit of an issue. Now, we managed to get the car going yesterday, and when we drove it, it didn't seem to have a problem. But as soon as we got around the corner and started trying to push it down the road, it just wouldn't go. I wasn't driving it, Dad was, so I have no idea what he felt when he was driving. But he said he put his foot down to try and get it to move, get up and go, sort of thing, and it wouldn't go. It was just struggling to move forward. So we managed to get the car home, and I said I'm going to try and find a vacuum leak. So we opened up the hood. I had a brand new can of degreaser. He started up the car, and I told him he needs to drop the revs. It was idling okay, so what he did was he put it in gear and hit the brake. And when he did that, the car was just idling so low and going up, down, it didn't know what it wanted to do. It was farting and carrying on like a pork chop. It wasn't running right. So my guess, my very first guess, was the fact that I believe that the timing might have been out. It might not be that far out, but when we check the timing, it's out by one tooth. I'm not sure if it really matters. The timing normally lines up about right. The car, when you're revving it, it was fine. It was revving a 3000, not upset or anything. It was just, I think maybe it was revving so low that it was backfiring a lot, because it was backfiring. I guess that if it's low idle, it will backfire. I'm not sure. I might actually go research that when low idle backfiring, because we do know that there are issues with timing, and we're going to try and fix them all. We're getting a new key, or fixing our key. I'm going to try and fix it. Oh no, not try again. I hate being tired when I'm making a video. Engine backfires can be produced by a vacuum leak. Bad timing. Okay, it's produced by a vacuum leak and bad timing. Problems in the ignition system, a faulty sensor, an exhaust leak, or some other system fault. Sometimes locating the source won't take you much time, other times it can prove difficult. The backfire is produced when unburnt fuel ignites inside the intake or exhaust manifold instead of a cylinder. You can hear the combustion as a mild cough-like ignition or a loud bang. A strong explosion, though, can cause severe damage, like cracking an exhaust manifold. So what do we need to do? We need to make sure the timing is spot on. It's out by one tooth, or not even a tooth. It's more so a scenario of this 1 and 0.5 and 2.5 sort of situation. So we're aiming for like a tooth up here. Okay, up there, that tooth there. So where the timing mark lines up is not on the tooth, but rather in the groove. So the best way to show you is currently where the line is right now. That is where we're trying to line up to. But after turning the motor over a couple of times, we get it lining up in that spot there. So it's out half a tooth, and we're not sure why. But I said to Dad, look, Dad, we've got to solve every single problem right here, right now. Find everything wrong with it, and then we've got to essentially get rid of all these issues. Oh no. Have I been talking to myself the whole time? I should have checked if the audio is actually working. Let's see. Instead of the cylinder. Okay. Okay, there's sound. You guys can hear me. So, yeah, keyframe frequency of 4 seconds. I have no idea how to change keyframe. But anyway, and that's what we've got happening. We've got one of our teeth on the top cam gears out by half a tooth. What we're doing is we're changing the timing a little bit slightly, ever so slightly, to try and get it right. And we're trying to we're trying to lower the pulley on the water pump because we've changed it and we're going to try and lower it. And if we can't, we can't. Bad luck. We're going to look into getting another gasket or a gasket set for that. And worst push comes to shove, I have to pull the whole top end apart again, potentially retorquing it as hard as possible to make up for the compression leak that might be there and we don't know about it. And I'm going to have to potentially get a hole tigged up and then re-drilled and tapped because Dad messed up a hole on the manifold and that's not good. A couple of them, I think one or two of them, he's tightened and ripped the thread out of the aluminum and now it looks like a helicoil. So, yeah, that's in his lunchbox, I remember, he said. I've done that once when I was younger too. Happens to the best of us, we make mistakes. So, I might be registering the Tata this week, no guarantees, but first push comes to shove, I've got to service the Tata. I've got to replace some lines, like vacuum lines and stuff. I'm not going to be changing brake fluid because it's going to be too much too soon. I'm going to be checking. I'm going to be getting everything done as soon as possible because I might need it before Friday. And if it does get going, we got some scrap stuff to go through and toss out. It's going all to the tip, essentially. And we'll get some dollary doos that way to recover for our expenses. Then we have the bottles and cans. We'll be cashing them in. Dollary doos, more dollary doos. And I'm looking into if I do the Tata and rebuild the top end of the Tata, I need to validate that it is the valves. And the easiest way I'm going to validate that there's a problem with the valves is I've got to find the compression test values that I came up with for the Tata because I've lost them. I don't know where they are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this clean, this flush, this driving around a little bit. I'm going to put in another thermostat. It's going to be not 82 degrees, I don't believe, but it's going to be a little bit lower than that. It's going to be 77, I believe it was. And it's going to be a Triton to Pajero fitting diesel thermostat, high flow thermostat. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the engine temperature needs to be up high enough so then when we do all this stuff, we don't have the same issue necessarily reoccur, but also to get the temperature of the engine up to spec. If this pays off, I won't be rebuilding the head unless I isolate the problem, the thing that's causing the issues. The hose, the intake hose, should not be filling up with oil. And because it is, it's pretty serious. That can hydrolock the engine and kill it. That's essentially just like going through a puddle of water and driving through the water with your snorkel under the water. It will literally pull in all the oil. If it gets up there, a lot of it, and pull in all the oil, and when it does that, then we'll have an issue. So what I got to do is I've got to get all the oil and stop it from filling up in that pipe. I've got two ways of doing that right now. One is to find out the source of the oil leak and to plug it, or to put a oil catch can in it to stop it from pushing all the oil straight into that, and to separate vapor from oil. Then from there, what I got to do is, if that doesn't pay off, I've got to put on a tap or some sort of valve or a sump-like bolt at the lowest point of the intercooler plumbing, and it's going to be a screw which you've got to take in and out to service, or something that allows it to flow into another container and get the oil out of that pipe, because the oil in that pipe is just going to cause problems. Oil will drag up the pipe, go into the manifold, and then go into the intakes ports for the first and second cylinders, and it'll just burn on top of the pistons, it'll burn on top of the valves, and it will just cause it to have a bunch of issues. The reason I'm doing it the way I'm doing it is it's not going to be cheap to fix that tartar. I'm only going to do this for now. If it blows up, that's the end of the tartar. Unregister, toss out the plates, sell the car or scrap the car, whatever, get something back for it, or sell it in bits and pieces, whatever. I will do that essentially. I am getting, however, the tacho rebuilt properly. There's no guarantees of what I'm going to do with that. So I can't tell anyone why the Pajero was out half a tooth. But what I can say is, I've gone off topic. If I want to talk about the Tartar, I need to make a video for the Tartar live stream. Oh my god! If I wasn't so tired, this would be so much easier. So what I've got to do next is, I've got to plan what I'm going to do. I can keep making videos, but I can't make them the same way. I have to change my methods for what I'm doing. But it also takes up a lot of time making these videos. It takes a lot of time to edit the videos. If you can do it all in one step, essentially make the video and it's on the fly, edited, sort of thing, that's the easiest way for me to do this stuff. Now, with the idea of how I was doing things using my mobile, I was doing this because it saves me a lot of time and effort to try and edit a video, and then installing software. Why am I yawning? It says 8 o'clock there, 7 o'clock there. I guess that time's out now. There must be daylight savings, must be over or something. But I'm just feeling so tired so early now. So yeah. But essentially, guys, if I'm going to do any car videos, I got to find a way to make them the most effective way I possibly can. But the Tartar is one of those things that I have to really consider what I want to do with it. It's a 4-door. It's kind of cool. It feels like a truck. We'll see. So, I want to know what people think. What are your impressions on what we should do with the Tartar? I'm spending a little bit of money on it, but what I really want to do is, I want to rebuild the Triton's motor, rebuild the front end suspension, rebuild the rear suspension, fix the tray, and repair the tacho in it. And with the old tacho, I'm going to have 50,000 kilometers added to it. So now's the perfect time to plan a rebuild of that motor, the driveline, whatever, and get it all fixed and sorted. Because if I don't fix things with it, it's not going to be safe. I've been fixing things up on it. I've spent a lot of money on it. There is $200 to $300 in the rear of the Triton Ute. There is a good $100 in the front of the Ute, and then there's about another $400 to $500 in the repairs that I've done with the brake fluid, with the repair shop that did work on the thing, and the replacement master cylinder. I only got $120 back. That meant that I went from 800 down to 680. That's how much it cost me to do the Triton Ute, roughly, to fix it. That is after I got money back. If I didn't get money back, it would have cost about 800 bucks. And I've already spent 800 bucks on there. There's still another couple grand all over to fix it and get it running right and get it fixed and sorted. The stuff that I'm doing on the Pajero out there is the same stuff I got to do on the Triton. Not everything on the Pajero, but most of the stuff I'm doing there is what I've got to do to Triton. I've got to now do some research and homework into the parts, the costs of some stuff, and get the rebuild kit for the Triton diesel engine. I've got to get leaf spring rear end kit for the Triton. I've got to take the tray off and rebuild the tray as best as I can. Maybe even make it lighter if possible. Make it carry some more stuff without going over the GVM of the vehicle, global vehicle mass, because the GVM versus GCM. I'm thinking. And I need the front end suspension stuff, everything for the front end. Ball joints, inner tie rods, outer tie rods. Actually, it's more like the inner tie rods, not the outers, just the inners. Inners, ball joints, shockers, those strut things. I can't remember what they're called. Yeah. And then once that's all done, the thing should be fine. Power steering pump replacement. The thing is, I don't have the money to work on the Triton, and that's why I want to do everything on the Triton before I drive it again, because I don't want to get defected that badly that I can't get it back on the road. I'd rather have one or two defects and be able to fix them, that I can go down to the police station, say I've done it, here's the stuff that I've done, they check it and they say it's all good, and let me go. I don't want to be slapped with, there's a defect here, there. Okay, we're going to put a canary sticker on it, you're going to have to take this down to Regency, and get it fixed. This is an unsafe vehicle on the road. I don't want that to happen, so it's going to be really interesting and really difficult to make work. Other than that, guys, I think I should get some sleep or do some work or something, because I keep getting tired at the end of the day. I have no idea why, but when I make videos, I'm just tired. It's the only time. Maybe just from talking makes me tired. But the reason I hate the idea that I've taken the Triton off the road is because I've spent so much on it and I'm not going to get nothing back. $1,000 in the brakes, and no one wants to give me $1,000, more than $1,000 for the car. They'll buy it off me for $1,000 and that's it. It's good for, the diff is good in it, really good. It just needs an oil change because the bottom bolt is stuffed and I reckon someone replaced the oil. The drive shaft was replaced, but sort of reconned to the sense it was sticky. I got all the crappy grease out and put new grease in. The old one is still around the back. The transmission is fine in it. The motor has a problem where it keeps blowing head gaskets. Other than that, it will run beautifully. and has no problems otherwise. Then there is the power steering needs to be replaced because all the seals are broken, worn out on it, and so needs that. The ball joints, yes and no. They don't seem like they have play in them, and they say, oh, they're about to fall out, but they never had play in them. The play was elsewhere, but I couldn't figure out where because it wasn't the ball joints. I'll have a look again sometime. Um, and then the rear end has been doing some weird things where you're driving along, all of a sudden you change from third to fourth, and then all of a sudden the power just spins the tires like crazy. So it's really harsh on that stuff. With the motor though, I'd have the crank welded, I'd have the slot in the crank keyway welded and reslotted because it's a bit damaged from previous owners not doing up the crank bolt tight enough, it was too loose, and that caused that problem. And if I rebuild the Triton's engine, I'd be checking the bearings, I'd be replacing the cylinder liners and everything along the lines of the diesel. I'd be doing everything I possibly can to make sure that motor's going to be in good condition for a long time to come. I think the cheapest way out with mine though, it's the only realistic and logical way to do it. Instead of going full on cylinder liners and everything, just get the oversized pistons. It's only a few hairs thicker or bigger or whatever. Put in new rings, get them honed, put in new rings, new pistons, new bearings, and top end wise, just put a new gasket in there, whack it all together with a new head, I believe it was, that I needed, or a thicker head gasket again, whack it all together, and she be fine. She should be fine. She shouldn't have problems. But the low and the high compressions, if I leave the head as it is, it's about 520 psi on its best cylinder. 520 means that the gasket thickness that I've got is still not enough to lower the compression. If I was to get rid of the 520, the high compressions in the cylinder, it might boost the power and it might have more power to deliver to the road rather than struggling a lot. Because that's also been damaging the bottom end probably over time with all the shaking that engines had and all these weird vibrations and things. It hasn't been the injector pump, hasn't been the injectors. If I fix all of it, it'll deliver more power to the road, it will probably feel smoother, and I know how it should perform because it's performing better and it's spinning the tires third to fourth, which doesn't make sense, and making me think a little bit about someone else's car, not turbocharged. It didn't spin the wheels, but 2.8 litre naturally aspirated 4-cylinder diesel from Hilux non-turbo, it flew faster than mine would take off, and mine's turbocharged. And that says a lot. So anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Thank you for sticking around. Feel free to share this with people and get more people involved in these kind of videos. Because, as I said, we need to hit 1,000 subscribers in order to use this tool again. Although, if that's not an option, feel free to encourage me to do better quality content somehow. Give me suggestions on what kind of angles to do. You know, just encourage the idea, just make something. And, yeah, feel free to give me some directions how long the videos should be and all that, because I don't want to make 20-minute videos. I'd rather make 7-minute videos. And if I'm making a live stream, it goes for as long as it goes, and that's it. Thank you for watching. This is the end. Signing off, Michael Mechanical. To bed.